Welcome to Despicable Maine Deep Dive Podcast. Today on the show, Trump celebrates terror and the mark of the beast.
Hey there. So today we're diving into some pretty, well, eyebrow-raising claims.
Definitely raising eyebrows.
Yeah, the source material tries to connect dots between former President Trump meeting with Ben-Gvir, these huge AI data centers being built, and, interpretations of the biblical mark of the beast.
Right, it's quite a mix. And we know you're here because you want to get a handle on these kinds of complex, maybe intense ideas quickly without having to wade through everything yourself.
Exactly. So our mission really is just to explore the potential significance of these events and claims, but only based on the information presented in the sources we have.
We're not saying it's true. We're not saying it's false. We're just looking at the arguments being made, trying to understand them.
Precisely. Think of it like someone handed us this complex diagram, strings everywhere, connecting photos.
Yeah, the classic conspiracy board.
Kind of, and our job is just to look at those strings, those connections, and see how strong they actually are, based only on what's in front of us.
Okay, so where does the source start? It lays some groundwork, I guess. Defines satanic.
It does. Pretty straightforward definition, actually. Satanic is just evil, the opposite of good.
They're basics.
Yeah, and it throws in the usual things, lying, cheating, stealing, exploiting people.
Yeah.
Kind of the standard list of bad behavior.
Okay, pretty broad. Then it gets a bit more specific. Or symbolic.
It does. It brings up the number 666, as you might expect in this context.
Yes. The famous number.
And then it poses this rhetorical question. It asks, basically, what country on Earth has a flag that represents 666?
And does it tell us?
Well, sort of. It immediately answers its own question, saying, if you say the country of Satan, you are correct.
Okay. But which country is that?
That's the thing. It doesn't say. There's no explanation of which country or how its flag supposedly represents 666. It's just stated.
So a big claim just hanging there.
Exactly, and it builds on it. This unnamed country of Satan, according to the source, also hates the Bible.
Hates the Bible.
Wants to imprison people for reading it, apparently, and claims this country has taken over the United States by bribing, blackmailing, and extorting every single politician and person of power.
Wow, okay. That's quite the accusation. Bribery, blackmail, extortion, the whole package.
The source finishes that thought by saying, the United States has been hijacked by the country of Satan. It's a very definitive statement.
Hijacked. Okay. Again, presented as fact, but without the backup in the material we have.
Correct. It's crucial for you, the listener, to see these as the source's interpretations and opinions, not established facts based on what we're looking at here.
Got it. So from this grand sort of shadowy picture, where does it go next?
It pivots to something concrete, a meeting between Trump and Israeli politician Ben-Gvir.
And how does the source describe Ben-Gvir?
Not favorably. It labels him a terrorist, mentions he was declared as such in Israel, apparently, and even calls him a subhuman creature.
Okay, subhuman creature is incredibly strong language.
Extremely strong. It clearly shows the source's intense bias against him. Ben-Gvir is a controversial figure politically, no doubt about that, but this language is something else.
And the meeting itself at Mar-a-Lago.
Yes, and the source makes a point of saying senior Republican officials were there too, not just Trump.
Okay, so what supposedly happened at this meeting?
According to the source, they expressed support for their very clear position on how to act in Gaza.
Their, meaning Trump and the Republicans supporting Ben-Gvir's position.
That's how the source presents it, and it claims this support translates into agreeing to specific actions. Horrific ones.
Like what?
Things like, and this is quoting the source, starving people, cutting off water, committing illegal war crimes like slaughtering children and women, bombing apartment buildings.
Just horrific. So the source claims they explicitly agree to these war crimes.
It interprets their expressed support for Ben-Gvir's position as an agreement to commit these specific acts. It doesn't provide, a recording or a document confirming they said, yes, let's starve people. It's an interpretation based on association and stated support.
A very dark interpretation. And the source frames this timing-wise.
Yeah, it says this happened early in Trump's reign of terror. Again, very loaded language.
Reign of terror. Okay. Consistent tone, at least.
Absolutely. It's all very emotionally charged, aiming to persuade through that rather than, say, neutral reporting.
All right. So from political meetings and alleged agreements on atrocities, it shifts to tech, AI data centers.
It does. Quite a leap, isn't it?
Seems like it. What's the connection supposed to be?
The source asserts Trump is building these huge AI data centers because he's being told to.
Told to by who? Let me guess.
By the terrorists, like the children of Satan from the country of Satan.
Ah, them again. The unnamed country.
The very same. The source doesn't really show its work on how that influence happens, just states it as the reason.
And why would this group want Trump to build AI data centers?
For censorship, according to the source. The reasoning is that these children of Satan hate the truth, and they want to crush American free speech.
To suppress narratives against their evil.
Exactly. And the source claims this same group will be the ones controlling the censorship within these AI systems.
So basically building the tools of their own oppression.
Yeah.
Directed by this shadowy group.
That's the picture the source paints. It taps into real concerns about AI and information control, but assigns the control specifically to this satanic group without, showing evidence of that link.
Okay. So politics, tech, what's next? The Bible comes back into it.
It does. We get to the mark of the beast.
Ah, right, from the book of Revelation.
Exactly. The source gives the standard definition. Symbol of allegiance to evil on the right hand or forehead, needed to buy or sell. Classic stuff.
And they add anything else?
Throws in a reference to Revelation 2.9, the synagogue of Satan, just to kind of double down on the theme.
Right. Setting the mood.
Then there's this slightly odd detour. It mentions Trump and Musk wanting to audit Fort Knox.
Audit Fort Knox? Serious?
Apparently. And it predicts the audit will find Fort Knox is empty. No gold.
Okay. That's a claim? Is there any basis given for that?
Nope. Just stated. Like the 666 flag thing, it's presented as a given, and it sets up the next part of the theory.
Which is?
That finding Fort Knox empty will cause faith in the U.S. dollar to collapse. Completely.
Leading to economic chaos.
Exactly. A controlled collapse, the source says, engineered deliberately. And out of that chaos comes the solution.
Which is?
Don't tell me.
A digital currency.
Of course.
And this digital currency, implemented after the collapse, is the beginning of the mark of the beast, according to this source.
So the digital dollar, or whatever it is, equals the mark.
That's the equation they make.
Mm-hmm.
And the AI system Trump is supposedly building for the children of Satan,
Yeah.
that AI system is the beast itself, the entity that manages the mark. Wow. Okay. So AI is the beast, digital currency is the mark, all orchestrated by the country of Satan via Trump. That's a narrative.
It's certainly a narrative that connects a lot of modern anxieties about technology, the economy, political figures to ancient biblical prophecies.
Okay, there's one more major piece here, isn't there? Something about the U.S. government and the Bible itself being targeted.
Yes, this ties back into the censorship theme, but with a specific focus. The source claims the U.S. State Department, through its Office of Global Anti-Semitism, is essentially classifying parts of the New Testament as hate speech.
Wait. Parts of the Bible itself? How?
Specifically, the account of Jews calling for Christ's crucifixion. The source says the State Department considers believing or repeating that account to be classical anti-Semitism.
So holding a core Christian belief is now anti-Semitic, according to this source's interpretation of the State Department's stance.
That's the claim. It even mentions a Polish priest's statement on this topic being included as an anti-Semitic incident in a past report.
So the implication is huge. Millions of Christians could be labeled anti-Semitic.
That's exactly what the source argues. It says the government now views these Christians as part of a worldwide problem that needs suppressing.
And suggests this could become illegal.
The concern raised is that repeating these New Testament claims could become a federal offense under hate crime laws.
Who does the source say is behind these laws or definitions?
It points the finger directly at the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, claims the ADL is the architect of these hate laws, and is deliberately working to create bias against Christians.
Okay, that's another very strong accusation. Does the source give other examples of what the State Department supposedly considers anti-Semitic?
Yes, quite a few. Things like criticizing Israel's treatment of Palestinians, criticizing Zionism, comparing Israeli actions to Nazi actions.
Standard point of contention in that conflict, really.
Right, but also diminishing the Holocaust death toll figure, questioning gas chambers as the primary method, alleging undue Jewish influence in media or government.
More conspiratorial territory there.
And denying Israel's right to self-determination, which the source interprets specifically as upholding biblical law against reoccupying Palestine unrighteously, and also revealing hostility towards Talmudic Judaism.
So a real mix of political criticism, historical revisionism, and religious points.
And it even mentions the concept of unintentional anti-Semitism as defined by the State Department, according to the source. Basically, you don't even have to mean it to be guilty.
What's the source's overall take on this State Department office then?
It calls it a propaganda arm of the ADL with an anti-Christian hate crimes agenda. Very blunt.
Any final analogy or point the source makes on this?
Yeah, it compares demanding freedom from criticism for Jews in Israel to what dictators sought. It lists Nero, Napoleon, Hitler, Stalin, basically saying it's a demand for immunity from any negative judgment.
Okay. So a really sharp critique connecting government policy, religious interpretation, and historical grievances.
Definitely sharp. It portrays a situation where fundamental religious texts are being framed as hate speech by government bodies, allegedly under the influence of specific lobby groups, all tying back into the broader themes of censorship and control we discussed earlier.
Right. So just to kind of pull these threads together from this deep dive, we've looked at claims linking Trump to a figure labeled a terrorist, interpreting that as endorsing, well, atrocities.
We've seen assertions about AI data centers being built for censorship, supposedly at the behest of a shadowy satanic group.
And interpretations connecting a potential future digital currency directly to the biblical mark of the beast, with AI as the beast itself.
Plus, this whole dimension of the U.S. government through the State Department and influenced by the ADL, according to the source, potentially criminalizing core Christian beliefs as anti-Semitic hate speech.
That's a lot. A complex web of accusations and interpretations presented by the source material.
Absolutely. A lot for you, the listener, to consider, keeping in mind where these claims are coming from and the nature of the evidence or lack thereof provided within these sources.
Thanks for tuning in to the Despicable Maine Deep Dive podcast. Remember, soon living in the United States will be theft of your life.